Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about something that I think a lot of people struggle with. The huge difference between the business English you learn in a textbook and the English you actually hear in an American office. If you've ever felt like you're speaking a totally different language from your colleagues, even though you're both speaking English, well, this is for you. So think about it for a second. When you're trying to be professional, do the phrases you've learned feel a little stiff, a little too perfect? Do you ever find yourself saying something like this? Now look, grammatically, this sentence is flawless, A+. But in the real world, in most American workplaces, it sounds like a robot. It's so formal that it actually creates distance. And that's the opposite of what you want. Building a quick, friendly rapport is often the real goal. Yeah, because the reality you'll hear in the hallway or, on a Slack channel is so much more casual. It's packed with idioms and shortcuts that you just don't find in a book. It's a whole different vibe. This is what you're way more likely to hear. Loop me in. It's so simple, all it means is, hey, add me to the email or keep me informed. But if you've never heard that phrase before, you're left wondering, loop, what loop? And that small moment of confusion is exactly the gap we're going to close today. It's about sounding natural, not just correct. And listen, if you've been in those situations where you just kind of have to smile and nod because you're not totally sure what's going on, you are so not alone. And it is absolutely not your fault. Think of this as your decoder ring for the American workplace. We're going to figure it all out together. All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by officially leaving the textbook behind. Then we'll talk first impressions, how to handle yourself in a meeting, and how to solve problems with your team. We'll wrap up with how to end a conversation with total clarity. And all of that is going to build your new communication playbook. Let's get to it. So first up, why does this all matter so much? Because the American workplace is this really unique mix of being professional, but also super friendly and casual. The whole point isn't just to get work done, it's to feel like you're part of a team. Getting that cultural vibe, that connection, is just as important as the work itself. That's the real secret to success. And you know where that connection starts? The very first moment you meet someone. Which brings us right to our next section, making first impressions. We're talking about those first few seconds of any conversation, where you can set the tone and show you're confident, professional, and easy to work with. Just feel the difference in energy here. On the left, good morning, sir, how do you do? It's so rigid, it feels like you're meeting royalty. But on the right, morning, how's your day going so far? That's an invitation. And here's a pro tip. When an American asks that, they're not looking for your entire life story. A simple, pretty good, thanks, you, is perfect. It's like a little conversational handshake. Think of these phrases as your secret weapons. Thanks for taking the time is simple, but it immediately shows you respect their schedule. And if you can say it genuinely, I've heard great things about your work, is an amazing way to start a relationship off on the right foot. And notice the feeling behind, I'd love to learn more about what you do. It's so much more curious and engaging than just a flat, what do you do? And this whole idea of a hidden language goes beyond just words. A perfect example is the handshake. In the US, there's this unwritten rule. It should be firm, but brief. Just 2 or 3 seconds. That communicates confidence. It's not about being aggressive. And hey, on a video call, the new handshake is just looking directly at your camera and giving a warm, genuine smile. All right, so you nailed the first impression. Awesome. Now let's take that confidence into, one of the most important places in any office, the meeting room. This is where you have to walk a fine line, right? If you're too quiet, people might think you're not engaged. But if you're too assertive, you might seem pushy. Having the right words is what helps you find that perfect balance. Think of this as a simple 4-step recipe for getting your point across effectively. Notice how collaborative all of these phrases are. I'd like to bring up is a really polite way to jump in, but my absolute favorite is step 3. One approach we could consider is. That single word could is magic. It turns your idea from a demand into a suggestion. It invites people to build on it. And hey, if you're ever lost, just to make sure I'm on the same page is a totally confident way to ask for a little more clarity. And here it is, the one you've all been waiting for. The classic piece of American business slang you have to know, circle back. It just means, let's return to a topic we talked about earlier. You will hear this all the time, in meetings and emails, everywhere. Using it shows you're paying attention and you want to make sure every important point gets covered. It's a key piece of the code. Okay, so you're contributing, people are hearing you, but what happens when there's a disagreement? That takes us to our next section, solving problems together. What's so interesting about American business culture is that even when things get tense, like in a negotiation, the language is still designed to be collaborative. The goal is to find a win for everybody. And the foundation for all of that teamwork is this idea of common ground. Before you even try to solve a problem, the first step is always to figure out what you already agree on. It builds trust and just puts everyone in a more cooperative mood from the very beginning. And here's exactly how you'd hear it used. You point out something you both agree on, and then you use that as a launching pad to tackle the harder stuff. It totally reframes the conversation. It's no longer me versus you, it's us versus the problem. And that is a huge shift. And this slide really brings it all home. Look at the difference. That won't work. It's a brick wall. The conversation just dies right there. But look at the other side. That might be challenging. Could we explore alternatives? See what happened? You didn't say no. You identified a problem, the timeline, and then immediately invited them to help you find a solution. You kept the door wide open. Okay, you've handled disagreements like a pro. But all that great work can go to waste if you don't stick the landing. That's why our next section is all about closing with clarity. Seriously, how you end a conversation is just as important as how you start it. This is your chance to make sure everyone is on the same page and knows exactly what happens next. These phrases should be your best friends. Just to recap, so our next steps are, these are magic words that turn a rambling discussion into a clear action plan. Promising a specific follow-up like, I'll get back to you by Friday, shows you're reliable and you mean business. And of course, always ending with something warm and polite, like, have a great rest of your day. Just reinforces that friendly, professional tone we've been talking about. So let's pull this all together into your brand new playbook. Because at the end of the day, this was never about just memorizing lines from a script. It's about understanding the why behind the words. It's about shifting from being a person who has memorized phrases to a person who can truly adapt to any situation. Everything we've covered today really just comes down to these 3 things. If you can keep these principles in your mind, you're going to be golden. Be adaptable. Talk to a teammate differently than you talk to a new client. Always be collaborative. Use words like we and us. And finally, always push for clarity. Make sure there's no confusion. If you can master these ideas, you won't just sound more natural, you'll be a more effective communicator, period. So every single conversation from here on out is a new opportunity. Your next meeting, that next email you write, even just a quick chat by the coffee machine, it's all a chance to practice, to build better connections, and to make a great impression. You've got the playbook now. So the only question is, what kind of impression are you going to make?